Welcome, everyone. It's the August Love What You Do again today. And as we always do, we record this for our Facebook group and our YouTube playlist. And this is, thank you for accepting the recording. It is a experience for you to engage. The first 15 minutes, we start off with a subject and item to give you some thoughts to think about, to start the conversation. When we go into full discussion, you may choose any question you want to speak on or the questions we give you, whichever you like. You can ask questions, you can answer questions, you can give thoughts to others as well. So we will get started, and is basically a group coaching experience that you'll get to learn. Oh, there's Stephen. All right. And we last month spoke about assessing, and we're going to be talking about reframing today. So if you did not get a chance to see the assessment journey, we actually had a special guest with Mr. Peter Demaras. So Jordan and I are certified and the axiogenics material is called Self-Leadership 1, 2, 3. And we get to learn about your assets and biases and help you walk through them in an 8-week program. And Peter Demaras built and founded with a couple other people the axiogenics program. It's an amazing tool, and it helps you get on fire about where you actually can use your A game. That's a whole nother conversation. You'll have to check out the video. Yeah, when we do assessments, what we discover, and we do any type of assessment, we discover that there are some things you may want to reframe. And what we've learned is usually helps to give you an example, a story, an experience to consider how we do it and how you might want to do it. Is everybody open for a story? Yes. Awesome. Okay, Haley, you ready? Yes. Thank you for the pretties. So I get to send Haley a list of what I'd like her to include, and then she makes everything beautiful. So, okay. So years and years ago, my dad said to me, my adopted dad, he says, you should probably write a book. I'm sure many of you have thought about that concept. You might want to write a book. So June 2020, a young lady from Australia messaged me on LinkedIn and said, hey, I think you've got a really big message. Do you want to talk about it and see how you could put it into a book? I hired her, and we worked throughout 2020. And eventually I went through a Bob Goff writing conference online. If you've never heard of Bob Goff, he has some amazing books, amazing speaker, just a powerful, powerful voice. And I sent him an email with a quick excerpt of the book I was working on that I figured out with Jane, what evidence she taught me as we were assessing how many books I wanted to write. What was happening is all the time I was writing, I was attempting to put 15 books into one book. That makes a little bit of a challenge, right? So what she helped me assess and verify was how to write the first book. And so by October 2020, I sent it to Bob Goff. He says, you've got a heck of a message, but you're going to need some help. You're going to need to find an agent, a publisher, some support, etc. So I ended up finding a writing conference. And that is in Florida, the first Florida Christian Writing Conference. Beautiful place to go. Not so many for the bugs, but the people was amazing. So long story short, I was literally sitting in the introduction class, and we had to narrow down, and Haley does a fabulous job with this. We had to take all our message and narrow it down to one sentence. And I turned around to the gentleman sitting behind me and gave him my one sentence. And he handed me his card, and he says, I think I want to publish that. And by the way, the book is called Slaying the Onion. That alone has a whole depth of material to begin with. Agreed? So, and through the journey, though, by October of 2021, we actually launched in September 2021, the first book. So we assessed, we found, and we secured our first publisher. But then we launched. And we found out a whole lot about the publishing industry, including we probably should have had an extra editor, maybe 2. So thankfully, when I got to the writing conference again in October of 2021, I met an amazing, beautiful future coach of ours, who's also a publisher and editor. And she literally, I was in a writing workshop with her, and she took my book at our next book. She just dissected it in 15 minutes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you've got a gifting. And her and I connected. I hired her. We have been working together. We have the second edition of the book. Now, by the way, this time, and Jordan got to be, and Haley got to be part of the process. We sent out 16 PDF copies of the book before we ever launched this book this time. And by the way, 8 people came back and gave us immense amount of feedback. And Haley, is the book the same from the first book you read?
No.
No. The book is so much more elaborate, so much more detailed, so much more specific, so much more inviting. I mean, it's so ridiculously edited. The way that Shelley will tell people is that if you want to work with her, you better have thick skin because she will pick everything apart. And it was a beautiful journey. It hurt a little. The first 2 weeks we started working together, I didn't talk to her for 2 weeks because it was a little bit tough to digest. It's just real, right? And Haley and I had to work through what was happening and how we could communicate so we could help her understand how our voice works and how we could edit it to make it so where it still delivers the result we wanted to create. So we had to assess where we were, and then we had to create new evidence. Then we had to give it out to other people to assess and then create new evidence. And then finally, one last thought of how our own evidence came together. And this is, did you put the mastermind slide in too? No, okay.
I do have the book, the new covers though, on the next.
Hold on for a second on that one. Thank you. Excited to see. We delivered our first Living Unwired mastermind group, and Stephen will speak about this in Gatlinburg. And Stephen, that took how many years to put together? Just 3, right? 3, yes. Stephen signed up to be part of our event, and then we had COVID happen. Then we had all kinds of different things. It was actually one event to another. Stephen, when you went through the mastermind event, what did you discover about the bridges?
That it's incredibly difficult to do if you don't know what a bridge is or what the steps are, and incredibly rewarding once you are able to identify and work through it.
And Stephen, what at the mastermind event, one of the things we discovered not only is how helpful it was to help people discover how to work through their whole and brave self, which is what we talk about in the book. Yeah, we also got to discover how important, as Stephen talked about, to show people how to walk through the layers and how to share the layers with others. And it was amazing. It was intense and ridiculously powerful. And we realized there's another book. Because once we got to building the bridges, and even the editor's like, okay, this is a whole nother book. And so the way she explains our book today, and then we'll bring up the visuals, is there's no fluff. There's no cotton candy in this book. It's all meat.
It's all work.
That too. That too. It is a living document. And will you go ahead and bring up the visuals, Haley?
Yes.
This is what the almost edited complete copy will look like of our newest book. It is the 2nd edition of Slaying the Onion. And it is quite a transformation, literally, of the first book. Haley, you're smiling.
Yeah.
That's an understatement, right?
Yes, I feel like I've had the pleasure of watching this from start to finish. And yes, I can agree. It is, well, we'll get to me later. We're not done.
You'll get to share your own parts of it. I love it. Okay, so this is an example of how it took years to assess, reframe, look at the evidence, verify the evidence, reframe the evidence, and then create new products, new tools, new structure. This is a living example of one of our experiences. And we have found this is one of my this is who I am. This is one of our brandings. And Jordan, you've been a reader of the book as well. As many have told us, this helps people understand what we do and how we do it at a really deep level. But as Stephen said, it's a lot of work. Okay, a couple of questions to prepare you for opening it up. Stephen, you want to read the top of it for me? Can you read it?
Can't even see it. Hold on.
How about Jordan?
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Evidence helps us discover what choices, thoughts, and decisions we want to make to improve details in our business and life.
Isn't that nice? Isn't that simple? So we're going to open it up to the group. How does this apply to your experience? What example would you want to work through to reframe your evidence? You can answer questions, you can ask questions, however you like. Is there anything else on our slideshow, Miss Haley?
Nope.
Perfect. All right, we can go ahead and stop share screen, and you may open it up and start however you like. It is a free reign. Haley or Stephen, do you want to share any more before we dive in?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and go first just because what I'm sharing is so closely tied to what you shared, and I feel like it kind of fills in more of that story. So I came along with April on board to One Light Ahead right before the launch of the first book. So I kind of like came in as the treadmill was going. I mean, when is April's treadmill not going full speed, but especially at this time, you know, treadmill was going full speed and I just kind of jumped on. So I got to mostly watch, you know, the assess and reframe process happen from not day one of the book, but from day one of the first launch rather. And in our experience, it felt like at times maybe it's just easier to squash the idea without reframing. You know, we'll just move on and try something else. But the point, I think, of the reframe is that the heart behind your goal or your project or whatever it is that you're looking at is valid, and it's there for a reason, and you're working on it for a reason. So not losing sight of that when things don't go quite your way, or when unexpected things happen sometimes, or things aren't received the way that you intended them. Like April said, editing needs to happen. I mean, so many different things go into the projects that we do as business owners, right? But the heart behind it is, how do you get back in the driver's seat and reframe so that you can move forward when things aren't quite looking the way you thought they were? And then how can you continue to use that experience to help show others the same thing? So that's a lesson I've learned throughout all of this.
Quite a bit, huh?
Yes.
Stephen, what do you want to share? Or any questions or thoughts?
Well, piggybacking on what was just said, I think I was involved with you, April, when you lifted your arm to flip the switch to turn the treadmill on. And it's been a wonderful experience watching the development, because I've seen more than the development of the book. I remember when you said, I'm going to write a book, in a workbook and a program, and I've seen the disappointment, and I've watched you work through it, which is what has allowed me to embrace the disappointment and walk through it, because I know what's possible just by being close to the adventure you've been on for the last, I don't know, 10, 12 years. So yeah, it's been a wonderful experience. And I haven't seen the book. I wasn't one of the insiders that got to see the book before it was republished and released, but I'm looking forward to it. I really am. And yes, it's a lot of work, but it's work that's well worth doing if you want to be a whole person. Now, if you don't want to be a whole person, that's a whole nother thought. But
well, and Stephen, for you, for your experience, your evidence, I mean, in the journey we've been on, I get the privilege of being your coach for all these years. What evidence have you worked through in that journey, and anything you want to share or any questions you have for the group?
well, evidence for me is that, you know, it's varied. I mean, I can't just say it's not black and white, and it's not always concrete because of my journey. But what I can say is that there is lots of evidence that I have seen over the years, whether it's in my, you know, aha moments when you have resisted telling me what to do and held back until I asked the question that needed to be asked, or asked or did something that you were waiting for me to do, even if it took months for me to take that step. So the evidence is in, I'm not curled up in a corner somewhere, disappearing. I am thriving, and it is really that extreme. That's my evidence.
I love that. I'm thriving. That's a big statement. That's a really big statement. And it's been a journey. Stephen, it's funny, even our Leadership Academy, people learn that we don't give them the answers. We will give you seeds to consider. Yet our opportunity is to invite you, because when you own it for yourself, then you own it for yourself. One of my clients used to say years ago, April, I thought this was your idea. And then eventually 4 or 5 times I ignore your idea. And then eventually it becomes my idea. It's no longer your idea. I said, good. That's what's supposed to happen. Is we plant seeds, you get to choose whether or not you're ready for them. Jordan, anything else you want to add or questions? We'll get Zach set up so he doesn't feel like he jumps on the treadmill too quickly.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. I was pretty inspired by what Haley was saying, and just it kind of triggered a thought for me was, at least in my own path, that there's kind of a duality to evidence too, right? Like we can find evidence to figure out like ways to stay where we are, like find a way to give up, like if we're searching for that evidence. But we can also look at the other side of it and like, okay, like why did I start this? And then what have I achieved to actually contribute to, where you are today, right? Like getting ready to publish a book and all of that. Like I'd imagine along this journey that Stephen was just talking about, that there may have been times that we're testing and like, yeah, considering giving up. But so yeah, I really appreciate just how you spoke about that, Haley. And I think that's powerful to think about, especially in today's world where we're just we expect things to happen so quickly because Amazon Prime will show up, the next day. But yeah, stuff takes work, and then we just have to keep our eye on the helpful and resourceful evidence and not the stuff that's gonna kind of cause more disruption or delay.
Yeah, and go ahead, Haley, you're gonna say something about that.
I totally agree. And like you said, Jordan, it's a choice. You choose which evidence you're looking for. Now, April's probably heard me say this a million times. Like I don't want to be delusional. Like I don't want to only look at the evidence that supports whichever way I would like it to go. I want to be a whole. I want my perspective to be whole. I want to have as much information as I can, but also I want to be resilient, and I want to remember why I'm here and what my purpose is. And I want to choose whichever way, no matter how hard, I want to choose which way is going to get me closer to that ultimate being that I want to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Haley, what you observed and anything else Stephen wants to add, when you watched the Bridges Lived Out, you shared something, oh my gosh, I had no idea how many, never mind the magnetism, but the other things that you watched as you were observing us living out the book and living out the material in the book, in the mastermind event. Is there anything else you want to add to that in the evidence you saw?
Just with the material in the book, we're talking about things that we experience in life, and they're very deep and they run very deep and they look different for all of us. So even for me, I've been next to April through this whole process. I've read many edits, and I've even given my, my thoughts and how things could be explained. Like I've been very close in this process, and I'm still learning often new things that really kind of solidify my belief in this. But it's been a very slow process, and I've had to give myself a lot of grace and just saying, I don't understand this yet, but I understand this small part, and I can build on this small part. That's been kind of a life lesson in general, giving yourself grace.
When you get to the, and Zach, is there questions that you have? Is there thoughts you want to add, or you want to just keep observing?
Yeah, I'm trying to catch up. I'm just trying to catch up here. And so, I guess what I'm picking up is when we talk about the evidence, this is just an evidence for whatever situation that we're trying to change, or is this evidence just about particular situations? Is it about an overall goal? Like where's the evidence coming from? And like, where in the channel of my life am I looking at this?
So Zach, would there be something that, and those that have been around me before, they know that I have no problems coaching in the moment, if you're open to it. So I'll forewarn you, if you want me to pick on somebody else, I totally can. But would you be open to a example?
Yeah, let's do it.
You're awesome. So Zach, what would be an area that you would like to verify you have evidence in?
Okay, so let's start right there. So what areas are we talking about? Let's define area.
I love that, Zach. So you can choose professional, you can choose business relationships, you can choose personal, being a dad, any of those things that you want to. We cover the spectrum.
All right, well, let's just hit business. Let's go there.
So and Steve was like, yeah, that was a safe one.
And by the way, they're all connected.
Thank you, Stephen. They're all connected. Absolutely. So Zach, in your business environment, what evidence do you have that you're on the right path?
So if I'm on the right path, or am I looking for evidence to show that I'm on the right path? I guess
Both. Mhm.
Okay.
If you were to use a specific item in business, like if you were to pick one specific area of business, is it relationships? Is it results, systems, structures? What specific area of business would you like to verify some evidence in?
I guess my gut always goes for results, right? Because I always want the result, versus, but like I can say that and I can think, well, I don't want that because I know that results only come from relationships, right? So I have to have the relationships first. So I would go back a little bit and say quality of relationships.
Love that. And so Zach, if you were to think about how many people that when they hear of a business that needs support financially, that would think of you and say, hey, you've got to talk to Zach, how many people do you think that would be?
I don't know. I'd probably say, let's say 20.
That's not a bad number. So in our programs, we actually ask people to have the first 25 to start. 25
Okay.
people that and so if you were to keep a document of all those 20 people and you were to think about how many people they've referred to you, do you know how many of those are?
So I try, okay, so that's funny. Maybe this is coming out of this place. So I have a top 20 list that I interchange people out of. And I would say if they're referring to me at least once per quarter, they get to stay on my A list.
They get to stay on your A list. Love that.
Meaning, and if they're on my A list, it just means I'm putting way more effort into the relationship. I'm reaching out to them. I'm investing more heavily in that relationship.
So you are investing in them as much as you're asking them to invest in you.
Right.
So like you and Melanie share a B&I relationship, right?
Yeah.
So would you consider Melanie one of your top A's? Or is she working towards it? Not to put her on the spot.
So Melanie, all right, so if we're weighing out a relationship right here, Melanie way over invested in me so far. She is so good at building this relationship that I always feel like I'm in debt to Melanie. Like I just want to be able to help her so much because of how much she does for me.
Isn't that a beautiful gift? And
Yeah.
Melanie exudes that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
It's the truth. It's
It
absolutely
is the truth. Yeah.
Yeah. Having the gift to get to be in relationship with Melanie, she exudes how she shows up for a person and how she creates her top 20. Would you agree?
For sure. Yeah. All day. Like
All day, right?
Yeah.
So in that evidence, you have evidence that that's an example of a top 20. And that relationship is, as you said, you almost feel like there's more you could do, right?
Yes, for sure.
So maybe some of the evidence, a reframe is to say, how can I put Melanie on my list today? And who I could consider that she could be introduced to that would be of value to put me on her top 20.
Nice.
Not that she's not already on, not that you're not already on it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But that's just a simple little reframe to say, hey, I already have evidence that this person is somebody I want to value. And yet I want to add a little bit more value to that. And so I can reframe with adding just a little piece of it. Does that make sense?
That's interesting. Yeah. So finally, like as soon as you said that, it just clicked. I'm like, oh, evidence. The light turned.
Light bulb. Woohoo!
Now I get it. All right, good.
Now you say why we have
Okay.
those inspired light bulb moments, right?
Yeah.
Click the minute
Yeah,
that you
it
said
did.
that. So thank you for the permission to walk you through that, because it was a relatively simple example. Yet, I mean, this is a relationship you already have. We're just adding a little bit of evidence. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. And Stephen, did you mute yourself on purpose or did you want to say something? Okay. Melanie, is there any, or Zach, did you have any other questions or thoughts or any other evidence we could help you with?
That's really good. That's a good starting place.
Yay! And you could literally walk through your top 20 and decide that, right?
Yeah.
Just that simple. And that's one of the things we get to help people with, is helping them discover how they've created that and what evidence is really moving them forward and what evidence we may need to do some tweaks to. That's just one of the ways we get to serve.
Very cool.
It's just a little thing, but it is a big thing when you do it over and over and over again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, compounds for sure.
Love the compound. Great word. Melanie, questions or thoughts? I know you don't like being put on the spot, so educate me if you're comfortable. Is there anything you want to ask or add?
I'm sorry, I thought you heard something, but no, I guess, you know, my evidence is the relationships that I build. You know, and always feeling like I need to do better at that. So, you know, at the end of the day, because there's so many people that I want to build relationships with, I feel a little bit inadequate that maybe I haven't done what I should do. But I mean, thanks, Zach, for the testimony that I'm doing a good job with you anyway. So yeah, I don't know what else to say.
Melanie, may I put that question out to the group of how you can decide how to give yourself some peace of mind about how you're prioritizing relationships? Would that be okay?
Yes.
Awesome. So Jordan and or Zach or Stephen or Haley, do you want to add some thoughts of how you prioritize your relationships before I give some thoughts?
Yeah,
Is the question like how she can verify that she's doing well, or things that she can do to do better?
Great job, Ms. Haley. And so what Melanie said is that one of the things she's working is not feeling inadequate on how she's taking care of her high relationships. So there's actually a duality, as Jordan was just going to probably add in, is there's two sides of that coin. So there is a couple questions there.
Okay.
Great job for picking up on that. Jordan?
yeah, for sure. It just kind of triggered the thought of, you know, starting with clarity, right? Like, okay, like I have this very super clear purpose. And then you can start like kind of searching for the evidence to know if you're actually heading in that direction. And I think what April did, even with Zach, right, was just like the power of unlocking that is through questions. Like, how can I serve this list today? And, you know, versus like kind of just, we get in routines and all that stuff, and we're just kind of used to doing things the same way. But if we just pause for a second and just ask ourselves a really helpful question, that can really help us start exploring maybe some new ideas. But we talk about this in self-leadership 1, 2, 3. It's things have to start with a very, very crystal clear purpose. Otherwise, we're left kind of feeling like we're not really sure. And I've certainly been there plenty of times in my life, like, I think I'm doing a good job, but like, I don't, you know, it's like, where's the finish line type thing. I don't know, hopefully that's helpful to throw in.
Great start. Thank you, Jordan. Stephen or Zach, do you want to add anything? Stephen?
Yeah, your evidence, you have someone that has just told you how effective you are in communicating and relationship building. Now, all you have to do is believe them. And my guess is that if you were comfortable to the point where you could ask clients directly, how am I serving you? Is there anything I can do for you? If they're telling you, no, there's nothing more you can do with me. God, you did this, you did this, you did this. You asked me if I needed this. I said, yes, you did it. Believe them. Just believe them.
Yeah. Just asking the question. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they answer, believe them. Because they're either going to tell you, oh, well, you're not my top 10. Or they're going to say, oh my gosh, your ideas are brilliant. Your service is crazy effective. And my clients appreciate the feedback I get is my clients appreciate it when I send them something from you. Just believe them when they tell you. You have to be open to, I'm not doing my job. And you have to equally be as open to, I'm doing my job and I'm doing a darn good job at it, as evidenced by the people that are telling me. They're not going to lie to you because you smile. They're going to tell you the truth.
Thankfully, yes. Great job, Stephen. Zach, anything else you want to add?
You.
Can I pass on this one?
You may.
Okay.
There's the exciting thing. We are all about, you're allowed to pass or say, skip me, however it works. And Zach, the curiosity though, if you're open to it, what caused you to create a top 20 and how did you decide who's on because you said I integrate them in and out.
Yeah, so at first it really was just results based. That's how it originally started. And then as I've been kind of cultivating this list, you really want to start getting deeper with people, right? And so I've looked at ways of, how can I treat the people that I work with, on that list. And so, for example, I had a relationship with a banker who collected Christian vinyl records. And so I found a Christian vinyl record that I was able to give to him. It's something that he was getting into with his daughter. So I try to be really intentional with these people and ask, we're talking about, it's funny, you talk about the onion, the second and third layers, versus just introducing with business and then, going deeper, what's second and third.
And both of those relationships. Great job, Zach. Thank you. So Haley, anything else you want to add to that before I give some thoughts and then I'll open it up for the next question.
I totally identify with what Zach was saying. It brings back memories of being office manager at Loomis Life Care chiropractic office. And we had like forget what it was, like a dream patients list or some kind of top 25 advocate list. And there were constant conversations about, how do we decide who goes on this list? And the more we had those, like, as in between the meetings, I would go into the therapy rooms with the patients and I would talk with them about their week, about how they felt since their last adjustment, if they felt like their last time with us, if they felt like it made a difference for them. And what I discovered is that sometimes your best advocates don't have the resources themselves to give you the business that they want to, but they are wholeheartedly like your advocate and your fan, and they will give someone else that passion and they will come and give you your business. So it's like, they may not be able to give you the direct result, but the network that opens up when you invest in somebody, that's valuable elsewhere. So that was a lesson that I learned, is treat everyone, you need to give everyone like a big scoop of your time and a big scoop so that you can find out what's really going on and who they really are. And if you guys are a good match philosophically and your world, your business worldview, all that kind of stuff, like that's the stuff that really makes a good advocate for you. You miss those when you're just looking at the numbers sometimes.
Absolute truth. Love that. All right. Any other thoughts or questions on that? I have one more thought on that. I was going, Haley, I went to go look for my squirrel picture, but I couldn't find it.
I have it.
Will you bring that for me when you get a second? Go ahead, Melanie.
So I feel like I'm trying to be a good advocate, like for Zach, because I don't use his services, but he uses my services, which I'm very appreciative of. So, trying to invite him to networking meetings or trying to introduce him to some people that I know, that's my way of serving him as an advocate as opposed to being a client of his.
Melanie, you, as Zach informed you and Stephen advised you, is you get to believe that Zach feels over indebted to you because although you don't use this service, you are an advocate of getting him connected to people that will. And so you don't have to use his service. That's what Haley's showing with you is it's not a requirement. It's
Right.
a gift to be able to connect him to people that could. And that's, as Haley said, those can be your top 20, top 25. So Stephen, you have one more thought?
Yeah, and he's got Melody referring him out, and she doesn't even use his service. So that could be you with another client, as what Haley was saying. So, believe him when he says that you do a great job, and then ask him the question, who do you know that can use my service?
And both of you get to do that. I mean, both of you,
Yeah.
next time, just like what we gave Zach an idea of, who would be a great introduction to Melanie? And as we're learning, a car person, a real estate agent, and we know those are different people that could be individuals, right? And this was something, Haley, would holler when you've got that visual, I'll share.
I'm
You
still
got the-
looking for it.
Okay, it's the tree one, right? With the squirrel?
Yeah.
So so to give you an inclination, Haley is on our team because she was the office manager for one of my clients, and then she moved and I snagged her with permission, by the way. The gift of talking about earning space. And so here's a couple things to contemplate. And many people will teach us a multitude of different ways. Your A+ or your top 20, top 25, those should be touched at least every month. Some of those people are every week. The ones that could be a top A, those are technically also every month or every other month, because you don't know when they're going to become that top A. So, and many people teach this differently. That would be considered a B. They would be an A if you asked or you taught them how. Then they become the C level. So if you're talking about in circles, you've got the A+, you've got the A, you've got the B, then you've got a C. The C's are the ones you don't know yet. The C's are acquaintances, people you've had community with. Melanie, you've got many people in your BNI group that are still C's right now, because you're not sure if they're going to ever be A, right? You've got C's at many vendors or affiliates, right? That they may rise up to an A that you want to invest be on their top 20%. Those are usually once a quarter, because you still want to check in and see if anything's changed. And by the way, there is a category called D. Do you know what the D is? They do or they don't. And if they don't, delete. We used to have 8,000 people in our database. Actually, I think at one time it got up to 16,000. We're down to 223. We deleted because it was too many. There's no way you can touch 16,000 people. It doesn't happen. You can so-called market to them, which we do through our social medias, etc. Right? I mean, we do consistent marketing, pretty ridiculous, and we're still learning what works and what doesn't. Right? We all go through that, but at the end of the day, these relationships. Stephen talks about the day I expected 200 people in the room. It was pretty silly. Do you know how many people showed up? 3. We finished our presentation. We went for lunch. Do you think that was a tad bit disappointing? Do you think I learned a few lessons? Stephen was there that day. So he saw my look and my reaction and my process. Okay, let's figure it out. And it happens. We learn lessons and we move on. Does that make sense? We assess, we reframe. Did you find our little fun picture?
Yes.
Okay, Stephen.
And you moved on.
And I moved on. Exactly. I assess and I reframe. So if you're able to see this picture, one of the ideas we gave the chiropractic office is they actually had somebody come in and draw a tree of their advocates and how those branches affected other people. And then they put me as a squirrel, because I could be a little bit of a squirrel, down on the tree, because I am one of their clients as well, but I also was their coach. And they never knew what they were going to be squirreled on. So Haley was kind enough to make me a squirrel. Now, did you bake the tree too, Haley?
I did not paint the tree. That was done by a patient's relative.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. And it was so much fun. And so people got to come in and see and get to know and say, who did they know, etc. But it was a very big gift of me for them to make me the squirrel. And Haley actually gave me, I've got it down on the floor. I've got an actual squirrel because I just can't help it. And as you see, every once in a while, I'll go squirrel. So you never know how you're impacting somebody. And I was an advocate for them. They were an advocate for me. Do you see what I'm saying? It's just a journey of a visual experience that we got to have some fun with. All right. We have 14 minutes. Is there any other questions that you want to bring up to the group? Any other support we can be for any of you? Steven's like, I'm good. Zach's like, I got my nugget. Mela's got her nugget. Oh, yay. Jordan, any nugget we can add for you?
Yeah, well, I think I'll throw something out there as well, as far as like, I'll go back and watch the assess part. But yeah, like just kind of having some pause there too, of like making sure we're accurately assessing too, and like what's in place to make sure that we are doing that. So yeah, like Melanie, I don't want to assume or anything like that, but like I think it's common for us to like maybe have a conversation in our heads about how we're doing. And just I say that because you seem a little like, you know, like of course like humbled, but like almost taken aback a little bit by what Zach said. And yeah, like can we potentially go out and just ask these questions a little more often? And like kind of the next question, like how am I doing for you as like a networking partner, as a friend, as a whatever else the connection may be, and like what's working really well, right? And like just having evidence from other people too. Like I'm not sure if that's like part of like the assessing like process, but that just kind of that thought came into my head as Stephen was talking about, you know, just believe it, right? Like, and that may be another way to start seeing some more consistency in like what people are really drawn towards, and then what may not be coming up as often.
So Melanie, I'm going to put Jordan on the spot. And then do you have something you want to add first? Okay. I think this will be valuable for you to observe because Jordan's so good at this that I'm going to have so much fun. Yeah, Jordan, are you comfortable with being in your introvert space for me to give a moment?
I'm ready. Yeah.
Yay! As you smile, just lights up. I love it. Jordan, how many people did you reach out to and verify kind of what evidence you have in their commitment to the coaching process in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, so I mean, the 30-day program was really helpful in me like filtering out who's an actual advocate. So having some definition around that was helpful. But yeah, I went down a list of, you know, like 27 people, I think it was, and you know, got a lot of, yeah, like I'll think about it, you know, like that whole process. So, but yeah, to answer the question, almost 30 people.
So you discover there are 30 people that you want to reach out to and invest in. But what do we know about coaching? How quickly does somebody invest in coaching?
It takes time.
What I have learned over 10 plus years, it could take them anywhere from 12 months to 2 years.
Yeah.
Almost 12 months to 2 years before they truly commit. Now, some work right away. Melanie, how long have I been investing? How long have we been investing in our relationship?
Oh, wow. It's been 2 years. I don't know.
It's been a little over 2 years. Yep. And we're slowly building up that process of give and take, right? And
Right.
I love working with you, and you get a little value working with us, right? But it took up to almost 2 years, about a year and a half before you're like, okay, let me see if this is really a good fit for me, right?
Right.
And Stephen went back and forth a couple of times. Sometimes people will come work with you, then they'll disappear, then they'll come back, then they'll disappear, they'll come back. I've had that happen. Stephen's been pretty consistent. I have to give him a whole lot of credit for that. Jordan, one of the things that's difficult when you're in the midst of that, going back to what Stephen said, is believing they're going to eventually do something, right? And verifying who is. So may I give you all a question to ask and then some evidence to seek out? Would everybody be open to that?
Yep.
So Jordan, when you think of somebody that would really benefit from coaching, who comes to mind?
I've been talking to so it's actually a young lady that my wife used to work with. And she's navigating just a lot of change in her life regarding career, kind of some ups and downs with her marriage right now. So obviously self-leadership comes into mind. I'm just kind of helping people kind of get over that hump or like find clarity and work on that. So her name is Jackie. And she's been on my mind and heart quite a bit when it comes to, starting a coaching relationship.
So first thing to note, by the way, is that he had somebody in mind. So Mel, and I'm gonna come back to you in a minute, Jordan. So Melanie, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being best, how would you score One Light Ahead in the coaching experience, or One Light Academy, whichever you like?
You mean from the 4-week session kind of thing? That's the only thing I've really only experienced, and it was fabulous. I mean, it's really, really great.
Awesome.
So you want a number?
Sure.
I mean, for me, it took my business to another level, because it made me really focus on who were my, best clients and who I should go after. And I don't know, it just put me on the send out cards as being one of the top producers for that month. And that was because of you.
Congratulations. Thank you. And if you were to still give it a number, and you're allowed to be candid, because there's always room for growth, what number would you give it?
Well, I guess there's always room for growth. I'm probably an 8 or a 9.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that, because I'd much rather you be candid, because I know there was room for growth. And yet we still accomplished our goal, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And you were, and so who else do you think would get benefit from that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people. I just can't think of any that come to mind specifically of who, and Zach, I don't know if there's anybody else like in our BNI chapter that you think would be where April could be of service to them, not her, but to any of them. And I mean, there are a lot of them, but I'm just not sure how to approach them or how to figure that out.
So Melanie, and Zach, so before I ask you one more question, Zach, did anybody come to mind when she brought that up?
Yeah, everybody needs a coach. Come on now. You got a goal you want to hit. You can't get there by yourself. Everybody needs a team. But my business partner, Dave Pressure, has been investigating coaching companies.
Well, how exciting. Let's have a conversation about that, Zach.
Yeah, we should have a conversation about that. So
I love that. And now, Melanie, the gift that you just gave, thank you for Zach for chiming in and helping support Melanie, is that what also happened, Melanie, is possible that some belief systems came in place. It almost felt like, I'm not sure who's ready to invest in something like that yet. That's what I didn't hear you say, but what it felt like from there is that I know the value of you, but I'm not sure. So you went through something that Stephen's working on you, is you don't need to worry about where they're at. That's not your worry. And by the way, I just got coached on this weekend. I'm on the phone with a gentleman. He gets out of his car and I hear the ringer in the door and I say, I know you're getting ready to go do something. He says, would you stop mothering me? No joke. That was the comment he gave me. Now he's my coach, by the way. And he's one of my coaches. Now, by the way, did I deserve that? Every ounce of it. Every ounce of it. Do you know why I deserve that? Because I'm too worried. He's like, if I had a problem, I would have told you I'm leaving. He goes, but I knew the pattern was coming because you're too worried. That's not your job to nurture me. Not at this moment. It is your job to listen and be the student right now, not the coach. It was a good kick in the pants, by the way. And by the way, my best friend just got through telling me that the same thing when I had a weekend with her. Would you stop mothering me? And I'm like, crap, I got to work on that. That's real.
I don't mind.
Haley, you have a comment about that one, I can tell.
I do. I think that was totally our heart behind why we made the last session, the assess session, look the way that we did. And we filled it with axiogenics. And as Jordan was saying, the heart behind that is getting as much clarity as you possibly can about how you're viewing the world. So you know where your gaps are, where your biases are, where like your blind spots are. You don't have clarity in these areas of your life. So like for instance, for me, I tend to kind of want to blend in. I would rather have someone step in front of me and take the spotlight. But sometimes that means that I'm quiet when I should have said something, or I'm not helpful when I should have extended my hand because I'm too nervous about what I'm going to look like there. I would have never known that as a blind spot of mine had I not gone through these coaching sessions. And I would have never known, okay, this is something I'm going to need to look outside of myself for evidence, because whatever's going on inside of here is not giving me accurate evidence in that area of my life. It also gave me permission to say, I'm really clear on these things. And when I feel like I should move, I will move because I get it. Like these are the things in my life that I get. So having that backup and those assessments and the coaching and this team, all of that is working together to allow me to do this confidently and feel like I'm actually like assessing real evidence and making real decisions instead of just guessing.
Go ahead, Jordan, say that out loud, please.
Yeah, I was saying like it's challenging to have an objective conversation with yourself about yourself, and that's where like the power comes in of just having another party that's present with you and curious and really just wants to help you achieve what you want to achieve. And so that's such a powerful I guess like statement that you said there, Haley, especially it's about being quiet, and like definitely relate to that as a fellow introvert. Obviously we know that about each other, but like how is that potentially diminishing value and then what's the ripple effect of that, right? Like the domino effect of that, because each choice we make has something else that's going to follow it.
So Jordan and Melanie, the gift of what Haley just gave you is to be conscientious of your own thought patterns, but then also be cautious not to assess it and verify if you not to put that on somebody else, which is all of us have an opportunity to do. Does that make sense? Just like the young lady, Jordan, you're talking about, Miss Jackie, I believe it is it's okay to have a conversation. Say, I know I know you have some life going on. Would you be open to doing a session just to get some clarity about where you're at and how we might be able to help in the future when you're ready? Just that simple. And same thing for Melanie. If somebody comes up to mind for Zach or myself or anyone else that you're on your top 20 that we're investing and growing together, is how can I not just ask them a question? Would you be, and you do an amazing job of this in the same aspect, your opportunity is to decide how you want to invest that time into the A+, the A's, and etc., and narrowing that market in. Does that make sense? And assessing and verifying the evidence. We covered a heck of a lot in a quick amount of time, didn't we? Isn't that exciting? We're going to dive into all kinds of fun stuff next month. We actually have a special guest coming for next month. He is one of our vendors and one of the individuals that even helped us create this Q&A. And he'll be popping in if his schedule allows. And if not, we'll keep sending in surprise guests off and on throughout these Q&As. Is there any other thoughts or questions, or we send you on your day? Have an amazing week, everyone. Yep. Love that. Have a great time. See you soon. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.